Anne, how are you doing this morning?
Wonderful.
Good, good. Okay, so we're going to start with 1 can of evaporated milk. And then we're going to add some sugar. 4.5 cups of sugar. So I'm going to stir this, and we want to let this cook for about 5 to 6 minutes until it gets really nice and thick. So I'm going to keep an eye on it. Anne's going to keep an eye on it while I move to the other things. I don't want it to boil over. But you want all that sugar to really get in there. Okay, now, for the second part of this recipe, we're going to take 3 bags of chocolate chips. I'm using the semi-sweet chocolate chips. If you like milk chocolate, you could use milk chocolate chips, or you could use a combination of both milk chocolate and semi-sweet. So it's totally up to you. I happen to love dark chocolate, so we are using the semi-sweet, which really gets mellowed out after we add all this sugar and all the other stuff. So it's not like biting into a really, dense, dark chocolate bar. That's why I like to start with the semi-sweet rather than the milk. But again, totally up to you. Then we're going to do 2 sticks of butter. And you're just going to put that in with your chocolate chips. And my hands are sticky, so I'm going to grab a clean dish towel here. 1 container of marshmallow cream. Sometimes it's called marshmallow fluff, and this is a 7-ounce container. Told you this was easy, and like I say, it makes a great big batch, which is extra nice. Let's see if we can get these days they seal things up so good you can't even get into them. I guess that's a good thing. Okay, this stuff is really sticky and it's a little bit tough to get out of the jar. You could also actually use regular marshmallows if you have those that need using up. So it's a pretty simple recipe, and it's very, very good. I want to get every little last bit of that marshmallow out of there. I think we're about good. Okay. Wash my hands, and we're going to stir our sugar and our evaporated milk. So again, this was 4.5 cups of sugar and 1 can of evaporated milk. And you really want to stir it well. Keep an eye on it. The other trick to this recipe is foil lining your pan. You want to be able to get this fudge out of here easily, so you want to do a nice big sheet of foil that actually overlaps. So that you can pull this out after it cools and cut it easily. Also, a little, you don't have to do this, but this will ensure that that fudge gets out of there, is if you spray the foil with either baking or cooking spray. Okay, so at home you're going to want to cook this for about 7 minutes, but at this point I'm just going to pour it over. And the hot liquid is actually going to melt the chocolate chips and the butter, and we're also going to add a little bit of vanilla to this. And now it's optional whether you put in nuts or not. If you're going to do nuts, we made one batch without and one batch with. Some You know, people just don't do nuts at all. A lot of nut allergies out there. So it's nice to do, if you're going to do this, you could actually even do this in 2 different pans. You could split the batch and do 2 different smaller pans, one with nuts and one without. But if you're going to do the full batch with nuts, the recipe calls for about 2 cups of either walnuts, pecans. You could even do almonds, hazelnuts if you really wanted to get fancy. It's up to you what kind of nuts you want to do. Anne's got pecans out here. My favorite, walnuts.
My favorite,
Anne is a no nut in her fudge. So are my kids. So totally up to you. Now this is going to take a minute to just get this all combined. So be a little patient with me. You don't want to see the marshmallow. You don't want to see the streaks of butter. You really want it well combined. This also is going to take some time to set up. I actually prefer to have this set up on the counter. If you want to speed it up, you could put it in the refrigerator. I think that it changes the texture a little bit. But you can see this makes a huge batch. And it's a little pricey to make, being that you're getting, buying 3 bags of chocolate chips and all that sugar and that butter. But the nice thing is that you're going to have plenty of it. In fact, I love giving, as I said, gifts from my kitchen. So sometimes I'll make 2 or 3 batches of this, so I've got plenty to give away as gifts. We're almost there. Just a little bit of marshmallow and a little bit of butter I see in here. So don't skip this step. Make sure it's all combined here. You could add other things to this fudge. You could add, you could do like a rocky road and add some little baby marshmallows. Anne said you could do the chopped candied cherries and do chocolate cherry fudge. Absolutely. Lots of different, you could do M&Ms in here once it cools down a little bit.
I wonder if you could do Rice Krispies.
I doubt it. Anne said, I wonder if you could do Rice Krispies. I don't know. We'll have to try that. We'll have to try that. Like the Crackle candy bar, I do like those candy bars, but I have never tried that. Okay, so in goes our nuts. We're doing pecans. It's already starting to get a little firmer. Takes a little muscle to get all this together. Okay. Now we're going to take the mixture. My daughter Ireland worked at a fudge shop. We have a cottage in a resort town up in Michigan, little resort town called Harbor Springs, Michigan, near Petoskey, Michigan. And there's, it's all about fudge up there. The traditional Mackinac Island fudge type recipe, where it's very labor intensive. You see them, pouring the fudge out onto the marble tables. And Ireland, it was her first, she's in high school, and it was her first summer job. She just finished her freshman year, so in high school, so she got her first, she went in and applied, and she got the job, and she was sample girl at the fudge shop all summer. And she'd get to help watch and make the fudge, and sometimes she'd bring home some samples. So we love fudge in our house. And like I say, my dad is absolutely crazy over fudge. So what's not to love? All that chocolate and butter and richness. Okay, so we're going to let that set up a little bit. And here it is after it's been cooled. And this is our no-nut batch. And you can see how easy it makes life if you foil line it, because then you can just lift it right out. Fudge is a little bit tricky to cut. So at this point, you can lift it right out and then just take a big knife and start cutting it into pieces. Fudge is super duper rich, so the pieces don't have to be like brownie or cake size. The pieces for fudge should actually be more bite size. So I'm going to start cutting this up, and we'll put it on a plate. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll pick up a holiday plate. They're very inexpensive. You can pick them up all over. The ends are normally what we keep for our family, and the middle is what I give away. But anyway, put several pieces of fudge on a pretty holiday plate and wrap it up in plastic wrap with a bow and a note, and it always makes a really lovely gift. And then they get to keep the plate, which is fun to do. So my 5-pound batch, big old batch of holiday fudge, we will put the recipe on our website. You can also pick up this recipe at any area Kopp's food store. They'll have it right there for you. So don't go anywhere. Lots more holiday treats and fun still to come. We'll be back.